Hello everyone, so I'm back with another installment of my rapid fire reviews. I do these when I get a little behind on my movie watching for the year, and I've definitely been doing a lot of these this year, unfortunately. Just there's so much coming out. So I do these in a way to quickly tackle at least four films that I'm doing for today, which are going to be Where the Crawdads Sing, Incantation, Duel, and Rise of the TMNT, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I usually only do these, of course, for more to streaming movies or of course things that came to the theaters that I just missed out on and wasn't able to watch until now. So yes, without further ado, I'm going to give my very quick synopsis, thoughts, and review score of what I thought of all four of these movies. So without further ado, let me get into it. So the first film I have is Where the Crawdads Sing. I personally have not read the book, but my girlfriend has, so I can speak a little bit in terms of how at least she thought that it was. Again, did the source material justice or not? But this movie clocks in at just a little over 2 hours, and it is about a woman who raised herself in the marshes of the Deep South, and she becomes a suspect in the murder of a man who she was once involved with. So I found that the cinematography of this film was honestly pretty damn solid, and it was one of the things that made me enjoy watching the movie the most. And it is directed by Olivia Newman. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones as the main character, and I found that her story was compelling. It had good characters. It was a decent bit of love, survival, endurance story. That's again just it was okay for honestly what I thought it was. There's some great characters that come along the way that help her try to sabotage her, and it is a bit of a mystery in terms of did she do it or did she not. And I found that the pacing was honestly decently solid. There was a lot of things that I found just could have been flushed out more in terms of again just her trust in people. The ending gives you the answer, of course, but I found that could have been done in a bit of a better way. And I don't know, it just felt, again, like most of the time, there's just a little bit more that needs to be explored or shown in different ways, or a lot of things just felt a little strung on for too long. But I did actually enjoy my time with this movie for the most part. And I found it pretty decent, pretty fun. My girlfriend said that they did change a few things from the book, but she found that a lot of it was pretty accurate. It was just in terms of the storytelling that they had to do, they did change up kind of the events a little bit, and of course, too, things happened in the book earlier or later than they did in the movie, vice versa, things like that. So with everything taken together, I'm gonna have to give Where the Crawdads Sing a 7 out of 10. Acting was really, really good. Cinematography was good. Music was good. The overall story I did enjoy, and I found this was a solid film. So the next movie I have is Duel. This one is just a little over 90 minutes long, and it is directed by Lively Stearns. It stars Karen Gillan in the main role. Aaron Paul is in this as well. But what this movie is about is a woman who opts for a cloning procedure after she receives a terminal diagnosis. But when she recovers from her terminal diagnosis, so basically it was wrong, she attempts to have her clone decommissioned. The clones are basically there to help their loved ones move on in a way so like they're not missing their partner. They can basically still spend the life that they have together. But of course, yeah, when she tries to decommission her clone, it fails. The clone has rights now, and there's a big setup where basically it leads to a court mandated duel to the death in 1 year, where it's going to be the original versus the clone, and it's a televised event. Everyone around the world can watch it. Karen Gillan's character realizes that again her family is basically likes her clone more. Her husband likes the clone more, and she doesn't want. I mean, of course, she feels like she wants to die, but she doesn't want to. She wants to take her rightful place back in the world. So she starts training with Aaron Paul's character, who's basically a combat expert trainer, and that's what a lot of this movie is. The duel doesn't happen until like the last 10 minutes of this film, or even a little less than that. But oh, there's a decent amount to say about this movie, and not really a whole lot of it is good. I found that the pacing was really, really poor, and it was super slow. The humor that they were going for just. The characters are very dry and quirky in a lot of ways, but in a way that just didn't entertain me at all, just because, again, how dry a lot of it was. Dry the pacing was, the storytelling was, it was a cool concept, but I felt like they could have done so much more into this. And I mean, again, there was just a lot of the humor that they actually went for. They were trying to go for a little dark humor, but I just found that it was really distasteful in a lot of ways. This movie did absolutely nothing for me. I know the ending is something that people will discuss a little bit in terms of what its meaning is, what it means for the characters. I just personally didn't care about the film at all by the time of the end of the movie, so it really did nothing for me. I just found it was absolutely boring and not just not good in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give Duel a 3 out of 10. Can't really recommend this one to anyone. I mean, it's a decent concept, but they just did it in the most miserable and boring way to me. So the next film I have is Incantation. You'll be able to find this one on Netflix. It's about an hour and 50 minutes long. It follows a mother who basically brings her daughter home finally after a long time of not being able to raise her. She goes to social services, but she brings her home, and you start to realize that about 6 years ago, she was cursed after breaking a religious taboo, and now she must protect her daughter and herself from the consequences of her actions 6 years ago. I unfortunately, when it came to this movie, had it hyped up a little bit for me when it came to seeing reviews on YouTube, TikTok, things like that. A lot of people were talking about it and saying it was one of the most disturbing films and one of the most terrifying films, too, scariest films that they've seen ever in a long, long time. And I can't say that it really did it for me. Unfortunately, I've watched things like a Serbian film, so with having people like so many people hype this one up, it's nothing. I mean, of course, there has its disturbing moments. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there's some very brutal things in it, but I didn't find that the scares in this were really all too effective. They're definitely very gruesome and brutal and gross, and definitely don't watch this film while you're eating. That's one thing that I can say too. It has decent pacing, and again, like, it is brutal in a lot of ways, and I feel like I would have liked this a little more if it wasn't hyped up for me a lot. But this is something that I can still recommend from a horror movie. It does have good scares, good characters actually that it brings into it. Sometimes though, I felt my eyes just absolutely rolling in terms of like, how is she this bad of a mother leaving her kid so unattended for long amounts of time? And I mean, I've never been a parent, so I can't really speak to a whole lot of the things, but it just felt like really unbelievable and didn't really do anything for making me try to sympathize with her in a lot of ways. And when she's again trying to protect her kid, so it was a little tough to get into a bit, but it does have some really good side characters that it brings into, and the deaths are brutal. The horror is again essentially pretty brutal, but unfortunately, I had it hyped up a little bit for me. Pacing's good. It has a really good ending that I actually really liked. It was one of those kind of like oh shit moments when you're watching it and you realize what the implications of it mean. So really, in all honesty, I'm gonna have to give Incantation a 7 out of 10. I still had a lot of fun with it. Fortunately, it was a little hyped up for me, and so that did bring my rating down. I was trying to see if I could score fairly, but I still think a 7 out of 10 does fit this one. It has decent horror, but it's nothing that's I find was all too original or again as disturbing as I feel like something in the situation could have been. If it had more compelling characters, things like that, I find that it would have stuck with me and hit me a little bit harder. Now, the last one I have is Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. So, this one you'll find on Netflix. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. So, the plot of this one is when a mysterious stranger, Casey Jones, arrives from the future with a dire warning. Leonardo is forced to rise and lead his brothers, Raph, Donnie, Mikey, of course, April, Neil, and Splinter in this as well, in a fight to save the world from a terrifying alien species known as the Krang. So, when it came to this film, I will say I didn't really watch the trailer too much. I just thought, oh, cool, new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie coming out. Awesome, I'll watch it. Holy it made me feel old in a lot of ways where you see the turtles get into their fight and they basically have powers. Leonardo has like his blades can teleport. A lot of the characters can do like astral projections. Mikey is basically Doctor Strange in some ways, and I found like just kind of sitting there thinking like, geez, how old am I? Like, when was the last time I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's so different from when I watched it. So I don't want to say like it left a sour taste in my mouth, but it just wasn't the TMNT I was expecting in a lot of ways. But I mean, when it came down to the animation, the style of it, and how these powers worked in the combat, it was awesome. Like, of course, they're ninjas. They're doing super cool things with it, and the action is definitely what drives this home to me. And of course, the dynamic of the brothers is one of the most important things to TMNT, and it's definitely one of the saving graces of this movie. I found that the pacing wasn't the best thing in the world. Of course, it's only an hour and 20 minutes long, so it moves really quickly and goes through a lot of things. But kind of like my biggest gripe with it is in terms of like this kind of goes down the line of an origin story where, of course, Casey Jones goes really far back in time, and the TMNT are very, very young at this point, and again, it felt like an origin story in that point, and one that just wasn't as interesting as, of course, any other TMNT origin I've ever seen. Leo is kind of tough to like as a character because of how just ignorant and arrogant he is in a lot of ways. Where, yeah, you're just rolling your eyes at him, and he's not really the leader. He's not a leader at all at this point, and again, I found that there was just other stories that built up these characters, origin stories that built up these characters a lot better. It does get to a point that, again, it does build up the characters really, really nicely, and I really liked this film by the end of it. I know it doesn't really sound like it too much, but it does build to something really, really good. It just unfortunately takes a while to get there, and it's sluggish to get there. But yeah, really, I have to give Rise of the TMNT a 7.5 out of 10 at the end of the day. If you stick with it, it does do something really, really great. Characters are awesome. Again, that brotherly dynamic and the action saved this movie and boosted up the score for me quite a lot, but I did enjoy my time with it. So if you've seen any of these films, please let me know what you thought about them in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up, and you can check out everything I do on the channel through my playlist down below, and I'll link them up top here. And in the description of this video and my channel bio, you'll also find a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you definitely join that amazing community. I'll make you even more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
Sky blue eyes, I see a world behind them. No more time sinking into the silence.